Millionaire mocked his ugly secretary. Then she walked in looking like a goddess. Ethan Gray was a self-made millionaire, feared and respected in the business world. Yet behind his polished exterior, he had a cruel streak. To him, appearances defined worth, and no one embodied his disdain more than his secretary, Lena. Plain, quiet, and always in the background. She was invisible to everyone else, too. Lena worked tirelessly, handling schedules, cleaning up mistakes, and ensuring Ethan's empire ran smoothly. Yet instead of gratitude, she was mocked for her unpolished looks. The staff whispered behind her back, calling her the ghost of the office. Ethan never corrected them. In fact, sometimes he laughed along. One evening, Ethan was invited to a gala dinner with elite investors. Bored of the predictable company, he smirked at Lena and said, "You'll be my plus one. Don't worry, nobody will notice you anyway." It was a cruel joke, but Lena simply nodded, hiding the storm brewing inside. The night of the dinner, Lena entered the room in a dress she had sewn herself, elegant, timeless, and radiant. Her hair, usually tied back, framed her face with soft curls. The hall fell silent. Conversations paused, glasses froze midair, and all eyes turned toward the woman no one had ever truly seen before. Ethan, standing near the entrance, lost his composure for the first time in years. His jaw dropped. The ugly secretary he mocked daily stood before him like a goddess descending from the heavens. Investors whispered, "Who is she?" He couldn't answer. He had no words. Throughout the evening, Lena carried herself with quiet confidence. She discussed art, business, and charity with poise that outshined even the most polished socialites. Men who once ignored her now fought for her attention. Women who had dismissed her now looked at her with envy. Ethan tried to mask his awe with arrogance. "Don't get used to this," he muttered when she returned to the table. But his voice shook. Deep down, he knew what he saw was not just beauty, it was strength he had never acknowledged. After the gala, Lena's transformation became the talk of the city. Newspapers wrote about the mysterious woman who stole the night. Ethan's phone buzzed nonstop with questions, but he gave no answers, unwilling to admit the truth, that the goddess was the woman he had mocked. But Lena didn't care about fame. She returned to work the next morning as though nothing had happened. Yet something inside her had shifted. For the first time, she realized her worth had never been defined by others. She had always been more than they allowed themselves to see. Ethan, however, could not forget. He began to watch her differently, how she carried herself, how her ideas shaped the company. He noticed the brilliance in her suggestions, the calm she brought to chaos. And for the first time, Ethan felt something he never thought possible: regret. The board of directors soon learned of Lena's talents too. During a heated meeting, she offered solutions that no one else had considered. Ethan expected laughter, but instead the room fell into silence before breaking into applause. His secretary had just outshined the CEO. Humiliated, Ethan confronted her privately. "Don't forget your place," he hissed. Lena looked him straight in the eye. "My place is wherever I choose to stand. You taught me that when you laughed at me, and I'll never be invisible again." For the first time, Ethan had no retort. Rumors spread that Ethan's empire was crumbling under poor decisions. Investors looked elsewhere at Lena. They saw her as the future, a woman with vision and strength. Slowly, invitations addressed to Ethan began arriving with a new name: Lena Hart. Ethan grew desperate. The woman he had belittled was rising higher than he had ever imagined. He tried to win her favor, offering her promotions, even gifts, but Lena refused. "You never valued me when I had nothing. Don't pretend to now that I have something." Despite Ethan's efforts, Lena's star only shone brighter. She was invited to lead a charity project for underprivileged women, using her story as inspiration. On stage, she spoke not of revenge, but of resilience. "They called me invisible. Tonight, I stand here not for me, but for everyone they overlooked." The audience rose to their feet in thunderous applause. Tears filled eyes across the hall. Ethan, watching from the shadows, realized he had never truly known the woman at his side all those years. She was no secretary. She was a leader, a symbol of strength. But fate wasn't done with Ethan. His empire collapsed as scandals emerged. Deals he thought secure fell apart. Meanwhile, Lena's influence only grew, built on honesty and compassion rather than greed and arrogance. The tables had turned in a way he could never reverse. Desperate, Ethan showed up at Lena's office one last time. "I need your help," he admitted, his voice trembling. For a man of his pride, those words were heavier than gold. Lena listened quietly, then said, "I'll help you not for you, but for the people your mistakes will hurt." Together, they worked late into the night, saving what could be salvaged. Ethan watched in awe as Lena commanded meetings, negotiated deals, and inspired trust. She was no longer his secretary. She was the leader he had failed to be. In the end, Ethan's company survived, but only because of Lena. The board unanimously voted to appoint her as CEO. Ethan stepped down, knowing the empire was safer in her hands. The crowd applauded, chanting her name while he sat silently in the corner. After the announcement, Ethan approached her with tears in his eyes. "I mocked you, ignored you, belittled you, but you became everything I could never be. You are the goddess I was too blind to see." His voice cracked, heavy with truth. Lena looked at him, her expression calm. "I was never invisible. You just refused to look." With that, she walked away, her heels clicking like a drumbeat of victory, leaving him in the silence of his own regret. Under Lena's leadership, the company flourished beyond imagination. Employees adored her, investors trusted her, and society respected her. She became a role model for thousands of women who once felt unseen. She launched a foundation called Invisible No More, helping women step into the spotlight they deserved. Her story was no longer just hers, it was a beacon of hope for the world. Ethan faded into obscurity, remembered only as the man who mocked greatness before it revealed itself. His downfall became a cautionary tale, while Lena's rise became a legend. Years later, during an interview, a journalist asked Lena, "What would you say to the girl you once were?" She smiled gently. "I'd say, don't hide. They'll try to make you small, but you were always more than they could see." Her words spread like wildfire, quoted across social media, printed on posters, and engraved in hearts. For millions of women, Lena became proof that beauty is not in perfection, but in perseverance. She continued to walk into gala dinners, but this time not as someone's plus one. She walked as the star, the leader, the goddess who had claimed her place in the world. And wherever she went, silence followed. Not from mockery, but from awe. On the night of her greatest triumph, as the world applauded her latest success, Lena stood backstage for a moment alone. She looked into the mirror and whispered, "I was never ugly. They just refused to see." And so, the secretary once mocked as plain became the woman who changed the world's definition of beauty. Not a goddess because of her face or her dress, but because she rose above cruelty, claimed her worth, and proved that the invisible can shine brighter than stars.